Hello, welcome to Graphing Functions Day 2. You should have your blue note packet out. This is page 13. So if you don't have page 13 in front of you, I want you to pause the video right now and get that. You probably also need a calculator, and if you want to get a ruler, you can. They are on the bookshelf over by the calendars. So today we're going to continue what we did yesterday. And when we graph functions, we are still going to make a table of values. But today I have 5 steps listed out, and we are going to solve for y to begin with. So all that solving for y practice we've been doing, we will be putting to good use. So step 1, we are going to solve for y. So when you solve for y, remember, you're going to isolate the y and move the 2x. So when you move the 2x, you need to do the opposite. So you're taking away 2x from both sides, and then you want to simplify. So cancel the 2x's out, bring down your y, and remember to write the x term first. So that would be a negative 2x, and then bring your 8 down. That would be plus 8. So step 1 is finished. Step 2, set up a table of values and choose your x coordinates. So I'm going to put my table down here. And I'm going to go ahead and make it horizontal. I would recommend you choose a negative number and then maybe 0 and then another positive. So maybe a negative 1, 0, 1, and I'm going to choose one more. I'll choose 2. So I need to go ahead and substitute in the value of x into this equation repeatedly. So I'm going to first work with x equals negative 1. So when I do that, I'm going to plug in to the equation. So y is going to equal negative 2 times negative 1 plus 8. So I took this equation and I substituted in my x right here. So I'm going to simplify. So I am going to do negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2 plus 8. And so positive 2 plus 8 is 10. So when x is negative 1, y is 10. So as you're working through here, if you have to stop this or pause it to catch up, please do that. You don't need to go at the pace I'm going at. That's what makes a video nice, is you can stop it, rewind it, that type of thing. Now plug in 0. So I'm going to, when x is 0, I'm going to substitute in y equals negative 2 times 0 plus 8. So when I work through that, negative 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 8 is 8. So put in your 8 into your table. Now I'm going to substitute in 1. So when x is equal to 1, I'm going to have y equals negative 2 times 1 plus 8. Scoot that over a little bit. So I will then have negative 2 plus 8. So that will be a 6. Plugging in 6. And you can see my pattern developing here. But one more time just to double check. So if x is 2, so I will substitute into y equals negative 2 times 2 plus 8. So that would be a negative 4 plus 8. So y is 4. Now I can plot my points and connect my points together. So this is going to be similar to yesterday. So negative 1, positive 10 will be up here. 0, positive 8. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you connect them, you're going to have this line. Okay, and so that's the basic procedure we'll follow. Okay, so let me work through number 2 with you, and then at any point, if you want to stop and do it on your own and then come back,
Sarah Ford,
you can
you're
double
in the
check.
building. Please come to the office. Sarah Ford, please come to the office.
Okay, next one.
Also, Lindsay Burkhart, if you could please call the office.
Step 1 is to solve for y. So you need to take away 6x from both sides. When you do that, those cancel out. So I'm going to bring down that negative y. Don't forget, that is a negative sign and a subtraction sign. So that is going to equal negative 6x plus 7. I'm going to write my x term and then my 7. Now that's a negative 1 right there. So I have to divide by -1 to all three terms. When I do that, -6 divided by -1 is a positive 6x. 7 divided by -1 is -7. So I'm going to make my table of values. And I'm going to go ahead and just stick with my same numbers. -1, 0, 1, 2. So if I start with -1, and here's the equation you're going to plug into every single time. So if x is -1, I'm going to have y equals 6 times -1 minus 7. So at this point you could type that into your calculator, but I'm just going to do them out separately. So 6 times -1 is -6. -6 minus 7 is going to be -13. So -13 is what I'm going to substitute in. Okay, next is x equals 0. So I will be doing y equals 6 times 0 minus 7. 6 times 0 is 0. And then 0 minus 7 is -7. So 0, -7. When x is equal to 1, it will be y equals 6 times 1 minus 7. So simplifying that out is going to be 6 minus 7, and 6 minus 7 is -1. So when I have 1, I get a -1. And then finally, when x is 2, we're going to plug in. So I'm going to have y equals 6 times 2 minus 7. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 7 is 5. So plug in 5. Now, when you go to plot, these grids go out to 10. So I have -13. I'm going to wait and do that one at the end. I'll just estimate that particular point. So 0, -7 would be down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, -1 would be right here. And then 2, 5 would be right here. So -1, -13 is going to be about down here. So you can kind of estimate where that point should lie. So I'm going to then line up my ruler. And that point I put out there, you can see is not quite straight. So I'm going to ignore that when I graph. If I had a big enough piece of graph paper, it would be fine. And there's my line. Okay, I want you to actually pause the video. And I want you to do number 3 and then come back and check your work. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now, and when you come back, I will have the solution worked out. Okay, let me work through this with you, and I'm going to work it kind of fast because you would have paused the video and had a solution to check. So when I solve for y, you should have taken away 2x, brought down -4y, then you have -2x plus 8. Then you should have divided off your -4. So that gives me y equals. Now, a couple of items here. Negative divided by negative is positive. A 2 divided by 4 reduces to a half. So I'm going to call that 1/2 x. And then 8 divided by -4 is -2. So my table. Now, I'm going to think ahead a little bit. I know I'm going to plug in a number for x. So the numbers I plug in for x, I'm going to have to divide it by 2. So I'm going to choose values in my table that can be easily divided by 2. So that means I'm going to choose even numbers. So I'm going to pick -2, 0, 2, 4. If you didn't pick those, that's fine. We'll end up with the same line if your math was fine. So when I plug in -2, I'm going to have y equals 1/2 times -2 minus 2. That's going to be -1 minus 2, which is -3. Okay, so next one, when x is 0. So y is 1/2 times 0 minus 2. Well, 0 minus 2 is -2. So I will have a -2. When I plug in 2, I will have y equals 1/2 times 2 minus 2. Half of 2 is 1. 1 minus 2 is -1. And when I plug in 4, I'm going to have y equals 1/2 times 4 minus 2. So that would be 2 minus 2 is 0. So when I plot it, I'm going to be over 2, 1, 2, 3, 0, negative 2, 1, 2, negative 1. I must went the wrong direction. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. And there's my line. So if at any point you plot your points out and you do not have a straight line, one of two things has occurred. You are either plotting it wrong, you're going the wrong direction, or you did your math wrong. Okay, the last one, when we solve for y, we will have y equals negative x minus 3. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I'm going to plug in negative 1, 0, 1, 2. When I plug in negative 1, I'm going to have negative x, or I'm sorry, I'm going to have negative 1 minus 3. So negative 1 simplifies to positive 1 minus 3, so that's negative 2. When I plug in 0, let me show you a little trick. When you plug in 0, you can just cover up the x term. And when I do that, the result is negative 3. When I plug in 1, I'm going to have negative, and then x is 1 minus 3. That's negative 4. And hopefully you can see the pattern. When I plug in 2, negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. So negative 1, negative 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you complete your line. And that's how you graph. So what I want you to do is use these steps here if you need to. And you can always come back to this video if you have questions. And then once you're done with this, go ahead and get started on your homework.